Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
It started as a calm, civil morning on The View. But when Tom Hardy joined the table to talk about his new film and the topic shifted to media bias, that calm didn't last long. Within minutes, Joy Behar and Tom were locked in a fierce verbal standoff that had the audience gasping, Whoopi trying to mediate, and producers signaling frantically from behind the cameras. Tom didn't mince words. The problem, he said in that steady, gravelly voice, is that the news isn't about truth anymore. It's about tribes. You pick your side, and the story bends around it. Joy fired back, sharp as ever. No, the problem is when people like you start accusing journalists of lying just because you don't like what they report. That's when the temperature in the studio spiked. Tom leaned forward, eyes cold, and said, "There's a difference between reporting facts and feeding outrage, Joy. You know that." The tension was so thick you could feel it through the screen. Audience murmurs grew louder, and what started as a debate about headlines turned into a full-blown confrontation about truth, responsibility, and the power of influence. By the time it was over, Tom Hardy had been escorted off the set, leaving viewers stunned and the internet ablaze with the question, did he go too far or just say what everyone's been thinking?
The moment Tom Hardy stepped onto the View stage, the crowd erupted in applause. He smiled politely, gave a quick wave, and took his seat between Sunny Hostin and Joy Behar. His casual charm, the kind that usually disarms interviewers, filled the room for a moment. But Joy already had that familiar spark in her eyes, the kind that signaled this wasn't going to be an easy conversation. Whoopi Goldberg opened things lightheartedly, her tone friendly. "Tom, you've got a new movie out, but before we dive in, we've got a hot topic trending all week, media bias. You've been pretty outspoken about that, so let's talk about it. Has the news become too biased these days?" Tom's expression shifted, calm, serious, thoughtful. "I think it has," he said. "When I was growing up, the news was where you went to find out what happened. Now it feels like you go there to find out how you should feel about what happened." The audience murmured, a few nodding in agreement. Joy tilted her head. "But isn't that a bit of an exaggeration? There's still good journalism out there, people risking their lives to report the truth. What's changed is how audiences consume it." Tom leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table. "Sure, there's still good journalism, but the system rewards division now. Outrage gets clicks, fear gets viewers, and networks, no matter which side you're on, feed that because it sells. It's not about facts, it's about feelings." Sunny Hostin chimed in, measured and composed. "But Tom, you're talking about a business model problem, not a moral one. Isn't that on us, the viewers, to demand better?" He nodded, giving her a small smile. "Exactly. But people can't demand what they don't realize they're missing. Most folks think they're getting the truth. They're not seeing the filters." Joy cut in sharply. "So what, Tom? The media's the bad guy now? Come on. People love to attack journalists until they need them. Who's going to expose corruption, report on wars, hold politicians accountable if not the press?" He didn't flinch. "Holding power accountable is noble, but what happens when the press becomes the power? When the loudest opinions drown out the facts? That's not journalism anymore, it's theater." The audience reacted audibly this time. A few claps, a few gasps. Joy's expression tightened. "You sound like one of those people who think all reporters are out to manipulate us. That's just not true, Tom." He met her gaze calmly. "Not all, but enough to matter. And pretending it's not happening is why people stop trusting the media altogether. For a brief second, the table went quiet. Whoopi, sensing the tension, tried to steer things back. Okay, let's breathe, people. Tom, you've always been vocal about honesty in storytelling. You think the news should take cues from that? He gave a soft laugh, but there was an edge to it. Maybe. Storytelling is about truth at its core. Doesn't mean it's always pretty, but it should always be honest. The problem is, honesty doesn't trend. Joy interjected sarcastically. And yet you're here promoting a movie, so I guess entertainment still matters more than honesty too, right? That drew a collective ooh from the crowd. Tom's jaw flexed. He gave her a measured look, the kind that said he wasn't backing down. Entertainment and news used to be separate. Now they've merged, and people can't tell which is which anymore. That's the danger. Joy folded her arms, her tone rising. That's an easy thing to say from your Hollywood perch. But real journalists aren't actors, Tom. We don't get to retake a scene if the truth doesn't fit. He smiled faintly, but there was an edge to it. No, you just get to edit it later. Gasps, laughter, the studio's energy jolted again. Whoopi raised her hands. All right, hold on. Let's not make this personal. But the fire was lit. Joy leaned forward now, her voice firm. Tom, with all due respect, actors lecturing journalists about honesty is rich. You play pretend for a living. Reporters deal in fact. He eyed her narrowly, though he kept his tone even. I play characters, Joy. I don't pretend reality is something it's not. There's a difference. The exchange hit like a quiet punch. Even Whoopi looked uneasy. Sonny tried again to diffuse. Maybe what Tom is saying is that both professions have power, and with that comes responsibility. He nodded. Exactly. I'm not saying journalists are evil. I'm saying they've lost touch with what people trust them for. Truth without an agenda. It's not about left or right. It's about respect for the audience. Joy exhaled sharply, shaking her head. That's a nice speech, but it sounds like you've been reading internet conspiracy blogs. He laughed softly, though there was no humor in it. Or maybe I've just been paying attention. The air in the room grew tight again. You could hear the shifting in seats, the faint hum of cameras. This wasn't playful tension anymore. It was the kind that hinted something bigger was coming. Joy gave a pointed smile. You know, Tom, people tune into shows like this because they want perspective, not just headlines. Maybe what you call bias is actually just context. He leaned back, eyes locked on her. And maybe what you call context is just another way of saying control. The room froze. Whoopi glanced toward the producers off stage, then back at the table. We're going to take a quick break, she said quickly, her voice strained, but composed. The audience erupted, half clapping, half murmuring. Joy looked livid, Tom looked calm but intense, and the cameras cut away just as he leaned back in his chair, expression unreadable. When the View returned from the commercial break, the atmosphere was noticeably charged. The audience clapped, but there was an underlying tension in the air, like everyone knew the storm wasn't over. Whoopi tried to reset the tone, smiling at the camera. Welcome back. We're talking about media bias and trust. Small topic, right? The audience chuckled. Tom Hardy's here with us, and clearly we've got a passionate table today. Tom grinned faintly, keeping it civil. Just good conversation, he said, though the flicker in his eyes told a different story. Joy, ever ready, jumped in before anyone else. You know, Tom, I've been thinking during the break. You said the media's lost people's trust because of bias. But don't you think that's partly because of actors and celebrities spreading misinformation online? I mean, come on, half of Hollywood thinks they're journalists now. Tom laughed, but his tone stayed even. That's fair, Joy. Some people talk out of turn. But let's be honest. Celebrities might post opinions, but the media shapes entire narratives. When something gets framed wrong, millions of people believe it. Ana Navarro, sitting at the far end, added sharply, "But you're forgetting something, Tom. The press isn't a monolith. There are conservatives, liberals, independents, all trying to tell stories through their own experiences. Bias isn't always bad. It's human." Tom nodded slowly. Bias is human, sure, but turning it into business isn't. When your paycheck depends on keeping people angry, that's not journalism anymore. That's manipulation. The audience reacted instantly, half applauding, half groaning. Joy rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. The media isn't keeping people angry. People are angry. The news just reflects it. We didn't invent outrage. We cover it." Tom's expression hardened. "You also amplify it. Every time someone says something stupid online, there's a panel about it. Every tweet becomes a scandal. Every disagreement becomes a war. And the worst part? You all act shocked when people stop trusting you." That one hit. Whoopi leaned forward, trying to keep it balanced. "So you're saying the media feeds division on purpose?" "I'm saying they benefit from it, and that's the problem. Anger's good for ratings. Fear keeps people watching. You can't tell me that's not true." Sonny spoke softly, trying to bridge the growing chasm. "Tom, I've worked in newsrooms. I've seen the pressure to deliver stories fast. Sometimes that leads to mistakes, yes, but not everything is driven by greed or control. A lot of people out there still care deeply about truth." Tom's tone softened a little toward her. "I believe that. I'm not questioning everyone's intent. I'm questioning the system that rewards outrage more than accuracy." Joy leaned in again, eyes flashing. "You keep saying the system like it's some monster hiding in the shadows. It's not. It's people, hardworking, exhausted journalists doing their best in a 24-hour cycle. Maybe it's easy to criticize from your mansion in Malibu, but real folks out there are doing the work." The jab landed. The audience reacted with a mix of laughter and discomfort. Tom's jaw tensed. "I don't live in Malibu, Joy, and I'm not criticizing the people doing honest work. I'm criticizing the people controlling what those honest people are allowed to say." That got louder murmurs from the audience. Joy shook her head. "Oh, so now it's censorship. Come on. No one's telling reporters what to say." Tom leaned forward, his tone tightening. "Really? How many times have stories been buried because they didn't fit a network's narrative? How many whistleblowers have been silenced because it was bad for business? Don't act like it doesn't happen." Joy shot back, her voice rising. "That's not bias, that's journalistic discretion. We don't print rumors or half-truths just because someone wants clicks." Tom's laugh was sharp. "That's ironic, considering half the news cycle is fueled by Twitter screenshots." The audience erupted again, laughter mixed with gasps. Whoopi rubbed her temples. "Lord have mercy," she muttered. "You two are going to give me a migraine." Anna jumped in, clearly irritated. "Tom, you're lumping everything together. Cable news isn't the same as investigative reporting. Social media headlines aren't the same as legacy journalism. It's lazy to treat them all like villains." Tom nodded slowly, then turned to her. "You're right, but the effect is the same. People don't differentiate. They just see the name of a network and they stop trusting it, because somewhere down the line, it stopped being about information and started being about winning." The energy in the studio shifted again. You could feel the tension thickening like humidity. Joy wasn't backing off. "So what's your solution, huh? Shut the press down? Make everyone watch movies instead?" Tom smiled faintly. "No, I think we just need honesty back. Less shouting, fewer agendas, maybe just a little humility." Joy barked a laugh. "You're lecturing The View about shouting. Have you seen your movies?" The audience roared at that one, but Tom didn't laugh. He looked right at her. In my movies, everyone knows it's a story. Here, people think it's the truth. That landed harder than anyone expected. The laughter stopped. Joy's tone turned cold. You're implying this show lies to people. Tom didn't blink. I'm saying people come here expecting truth, and too often they get theater. Gasps again. Whoopi's voice cut in quickly. Okay, let's take a breath here. But Tom wasn't finished. Look, Joy, I respect you. You've had a long career, and you care about what you believe. But sometimes believing too strongly blinds people. It stops them from seeing the other side. Joy's lips tightened. And sometimes pretending to be above it all is just another kind of blindness, Tom. That hung in the air like smoke. Whoopi, visibly uncomfortable now, turned toward the camera. You see why I don't do Twitter? She joked weakly, earning a few awkward laughs. We're going to try to unpack this more after the break because, whew, this one's heavy. The camera zoomed out, the theme music played, and Tom leaned back in his chair, rubbing his hands together. Joy crossed her arms, not looking at him. Behind the smiles and studio lights, you could feel it. Neither was backing down. The clash wasn't cooling off. It was just getting ready to explode.
When the cameras came back from commercial, you could practically feel the heat radiating off the stage. Whoopi took a slow breath before speaking, trying to steer the ship back on course. "All right," she said, half laughing but clearly uneasy. "Let's all take a deep breath. We're talking about media, bias, and truth, topics that apparently get everyone's blood pressure up." The audience chuckled nervously. Tom leaned forward, calm again, almost too calm. "I don't mind passion," he said, glancing at Joy, "but I do mind when people pretend passion equals honesty. They're not the same." Joy smirked. "Oh, don't worry, Tom. We're not all actors here. Some of us deal in reality." A few oohs rose from the crowd. Tom's face stayed still, but you could see the restraint behind his eyes. "I know reality pretty well, Joy. I've seen it in war zones. I've met people who've lost their lives believing in truth. That's why I get a little tense when truth becomes a ratings game." The audience fell quiet. For a moment, even Joy's expression softened. Whoopi looked at him surprised. "You've done some real journalism work before?" Tom nodded. "Before acting full-time, yeah. I did field research for a documentary overseas. Places where there was no Wi-Fi, no fact-checker on Twitter, no 24-hour news spin. Just people trying to survive while politicians and media back home twisted their story to fit whatever made people click." The room was still. Joy exhaled. "That's tragic, sure. But that's not the same as what we're talking about. You can't compare what happens in war-torn regions to how we discuss politics or culture here. We're not spreading propaganda." Tom's voice was quiet but firm. "You don't have to call it propaganda for it to have the same effect." That line landed like a slap. Anna broke the silence, shaking her head. "Tom, you're talking like you think we're all villains, but you're forgetting how important a free press is. Without media, power runs unchecked." "Tom is not against freedom of the press. I'm against freedom without responsibility. You can't scream fire in a theater and call it free speech." Sonny leaned forward. "But you also can't silence people because they're uncomfortable. Accountability can't become censorship." Tom nodded, giving her a respectful glance. "That's fair. But right now, accountability means tearing people apart before the facts come out. A single clip, taken out of context, and someone's life is over. That's not accountability, it's blood sport." A wave of murmurs rolled through the audience. Joy wasn't done. "You act like the media's some monster that hunts innocent people, but it's the public driving that demand. People want scandal, they click scandal.
We're just reflecting what society is already craving." Tom turned toward her, voice low. "That's the saddest part, Joy. You're right." She blinked, thrown for a moment. He went on, his tone softening, but somehow cutting deeper. "People crave chaos now, outrage, conflict, because that's all they see. You don't feed people that much poison and then act surprised when they're sick." For the first time, Joy didn't respond right away. The crowd had gone quiet again. No laughter, no gasps, just the hum of silence. Tom sat back, his words measured. "I'm not saying this show or this network is the only problem. It's the whole machine. The whole world turned into one big argument. We forgot how to talk. We only know how to win." Whoopi sighed deeply, nodding. "That's something I can't really argue with." Joy crossed her arms, her tone quieter now. "So what do you suggest then? Everyone just hold hands and stop having opinions?" Tom's eyes softened a little. "No, I think people can still debate, just without trying to destroy each other." There was something in his tone, an ache, maybe, that caught people off guard. Anna leaned forward, curious. "You sound like you've seen the cost of that up close." Tom nodded slowly. "Yeah, I have." The studio was silent again. Even the cameras seemed to lean closer. He took a breath, then said, "A friend of mine, a journalist, used to report in places where the truth could get you killed. She told me something once. When you stop listening, the truth starts dying. I think that's what's happening now. Everyone is shouting, but no one is listening." Joy looked at him differently this time, less defensive, more reflective. "That's actually true," she admitted quietly. "But it's hard to listen when everyone is shouting at you." Tom gave a faint smile. "Then maybe we all need to lower our voices." A ripple of applause spread through the audience, not loud, but sincere. Whoopi jumped in, smiling slightly. "You two agreeing for the first time all day? Miracles happen." The tension broke a little. Tom chuckled. Even Joy smiled, though her tone was still edged. "Don't get used to it." The crowd laughed again, easing the air. But then Anna leaned forward, reigniting the spark. "Tom, I get what you're saying about outrage culture, but don't you think you're being a bit hypocritical? You've said controversial things before. You benefit from that same outrage." The crowd gasped a little, turning back to Tom. He didn't flinch. "Sure, I've said things that stirred people up, but I've also stood by them. I didn't hide behind PR statements or fake apologies. I believe in owning your words. That's something I wish more people in the media did." Joy pounced again. "So you're saying every journalist should just say whatever they want without consequences?" Tom shook his head. "No, I'm saying they should tell the truth even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs them." That line sparked loud applause. Joy, visibly frustrated, tried to cut through it. "Tom, you make it sound so simple, but it's not black and white. You can't always tell the whole truth when you're responsible for millions of viewers and legal teams breathing down your neck." Tom's voice sharpened. "Then maybe the system's broken if truth depends on who signs the checks." That line hit like a hammer. Whoopi looked like she wanted to step in, but the crowd was reacting. Cheers, gasps, the whole storm. Tom's voice lowered, quieter now, but full of weight. "At some point, we all have to decide if we're more afraid of losing jobs or losing honesty." Joy looked at him long and hard. No jokes this time, just quiet disbelief and something close to respect. The camera lingered on their faces, one man, unflinching, one woman, unbending. It wasn't a shouting match anymore. It was something deeper, rawer. And as the segment faded to break, Whoopi's nervous laugh filled the silence. "All right, folks, grab your popcorn. We're just getting started." The crowd clapped, but the air was still heavy. Everyone watching knew it. This wasn't just TV anymore. The studio air felt thick, like static before a lightning strike. Joy Behar leaned back in her chair, her expression sharp and smug. "You know, Tom," she said, her tone cutting through the tension like glass, "for someone who preaches about honesty in media, you sure have a knack for dramatizing things to make yourself look righteous." The audience gave a nervous chuckle. Tom Hardy didn't. He stared at her, jaw clenched, the faint trace of disbelief flickering in his eyes. "Righteous?" he repeated slowly, his voice low. "No, Joy. I just don't enjoy watching the truth get bent into entertainment. That's what's happening, every day, and you call it news." Anna Navarro shifted in her seat, whispering something to Sonny Hostin, but Tom caught it. He turned toward her. "You think this is just a game, don't you? Debate, ratings, sound bites. But people out there actually believe what you feed them." "People can think for themselves, Tom. They're not mindless followers. You're giving yourself too much credit if you think your truth is the only one that counts." That word, truth, hung between them like a dare. Tom leaned forward, his voice quiet but unshakable. "There isn't your truth or my truth, Joy. There's just the truth. And if you can't admit the media picks sides now, then maybe you're part of the reason no one trusts it anymore." The audience gasped. Even Whoopi looked uneasy. Joy tried to retake control. "You come on this show acting like you're the savior of journalism, but you're just another celebrity with a microphone and a hero complex." Tom exhaled sharply, then stood up. The camera followed him as he pushed his chair back. "No, Joy, I'm just someone who's tired of people pretending spin is substance. You asked if the media is too biased? There's your answer." Joy opened her mouth to fire back, but he cut her off, eyes steady, voice firm. "You can twist headlines all you want, but truth doesn't need to shout. It just waits until people finally wake up." The room went silent. For a moment, even the hum of the camera seemed to fade. Then, without another word, Tom Hardy took off his mic, set it gently on the table, and walked off the set. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whoopi blinked in disbelief, fumbling for a comeback that never came. Whoopi turned to the camera, trying to steady the chaos. "Well, folks, I think we just had one of those real moments we always talk about." Joy forced a smile, but her voice trembled. "Yeah, real dramatic, that one." But everyone watching, both in the studio and at home, knew the truth. Tom Hardy didn't storm off for theatrics. He walked out because for him, the debate was over long before it started. The line between truth and showmanship had finally broken, and he refused to play along. The studio lights dimmed to a softer glow, but the tension lingered like smoke after a fire. Joy Behar shuffled her notes, trying to appear composed, though everyone could sense the unease that had settled over the set. Tom Hardy's empty chair sat like a statement of its own, silent, unflinching, and impossible to ignore. Anna Navarro finally broke the silence. "You know," she said carefully, "whether people agree with him or not, he made a point. We all say we want honest conversations, but when they actually happen, we call them confrontations." The audience murmured in quiet agreement. Joy shot her a look but didn't respond. Instead, she exhaled slowly, her voice softer now. "He's passionate, I'll give him that, but passion doesn't always equal truth." Whoopi leaned in, grounding the moment. "Maybe not, but sometimes passion is what wakes people up. Tom walked off because he felt unheard, and that says a lot, not just about him, but about where we are as a country. Nobody listens long enough to understand." That line landed. Even Joy's shoulders slumped, the defensiveness fading. "Maybe," she said almost to herself, We all talk too much and listen too little." The camera zoomed out slowly, capturing the hosts in rare reflection. The usual laughter, the crosstalk, the signature view energy, none of it returned, just silence, a quiet acknowledgement that something real had cracked open on live television. Outside, clips of Tom Hardy's walkout began spreading across social media within minutes. Some called him a hero for standing up to media bias. Others mocked him for being dramatic. But regardless of which side they took, no one could deny he'd made people think. By the evening, the moment was being replayed on every major outlet. The image of Tom Hardy removing his mic and walking off, no shouting, no theatrics, just quiet conviction, became symbolic of a deeper frustration millions shared but rarely expressed. As the final moments of the show faded out, Whoopi looked directly into the camera. Maybe the lesson here isn't about bias or politics. Maybe it's about remembering how to have a conversation without trying to win it. The screen faded to black. Later that night, when Tom Hardy finally spoke about the incident online, his post was brief. "Truth doesn't belong to one side. It belongs to everyone willing to look for it." And that single line, simple, steady, and raw, hit harder than any debate ever could. If you liked this powerful moment, make sure to subscribe for more celebrity clashes, emotional showdowns, and unforgettable TV moments. Drop a comment below. Do you think the media can ever be truly unbiased again?